ladies and gentlemen who want to cheat on each other but do it in a completely wholesome, wonderful way where you're not actually cheating, we're going to talk about roleplay here. Strong introduction. Strong fucking introduction right there. So I am obviously we are someone that talk a lot about honesty on this channel and obviously not cheating, but I like roleplay. We're going to talk about roleplay in the bedroom, putting on little personas and dressing up naughty. It's great because you get to cheat on your partner with your partner, pretending they're someone else and pretending you're someone else. Do you agree? That's why you like roleplay, you big cheater?
No, I think for me it's
Yes.
a form of escapism, and I think sometimes when
Escapism from your partner.
I think just more from day-to-day life, and sex is one form of that, and obviously roleplay can take it to an extra level. And I think the other thing that I like is often that I can step away from who I am day to day, whether that's someone who feels like they need to be in control or is more stressed, you can let go of that control, or alternatively, you can be somebody that has more confidence and feels more powerful, and you get to tap into that in a fun, sexual way.
And so let's maybe explain what we mean by roleplay. When we say that, there are a million different ways that you can roleplay in the bedroom. And we put BDSM in the title, but it doesn't just have to be BDSM. I'm going to tell you guys and girls a little secret. I put BDSM in the title of lots of videos because then YouTube picks it up and goes, oh, BDSM, that's a strong keyword. Let me show that to everyone. So you can do roleplay outside of BDSM, but we're talking about putting on a little persona, like you said. So you could play as call me daddy or call me sir. You could be a little more strict with it and say call me master, call me mistress, or you could dress up as a naughty nurse, or, you can put on a costume or just act out a costume. It's a really fun way of role playing. And the audience, this community, a lot of you are complete over the top nerds. And I say that with love because I'm a dirty nerd as well. So a lot of us are a little bit nerdy. And
you're not really a sex nerd, though. You're like a nerd in other respects. That's irrelevant.
I'm not a sexy nerd.
No, you're not a nerd.
Not a nerd about sex. We're pretty nerdy about sex.
I guess the fact that you have a massive podcast of hundreds of episodes talking about sex, maybe.
Yeah, what the frick are you talking about?
I think sometimes the BDSM, and we've said this before, but the BDSM community can be a bit gatekeepy.
That's true.
And there's lots of rules and ideas around it, and we don't necessarily delve much into that ourselves. We like to be a bit more casual about it because I think that's the way that we have fun, is not taking it too seriously, having all of these things that we suggest. We see them as a fun thing to try and explore, that anybody can explore, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I had a woman sign up for my coaching program this week. Shout outs to her if she's listening. I don't know why she would be. She's pretty busy, but she signed up to the program specifically because she said she Googled BDSM submissive, and our video is the third video on YouTube for that search term. And she watched us and she said, okay, these two don't seem like weird sex nerds. And she said a lot of the videos that she'd watched were sort of like you said, there's nothing wrong with it, but it didn't feel super approachable as a newcomer to these kind of things. And so a big thing we do, if you're not familiar with our channel, which most of you will be, but we like to make this stuff accessible to the average person, especially when it comes to sex, when it comes to BDSM, when it comes to kinks, when it comes to role play and stuff. And so I think a lot of people, when they see the word role play, they think, okay, this is going to be I have to put on a character, I have to dress up, I have to do a great job. But no, we role play all the damn freaking time. We do with each other, we do with other girls that we've seen. We can go through examples of different role plays that we've tried, but we kind of just like to, a hat that you're just putting on temporarily. We know it's just a fun game. We don't fully get into characters. It's kind of like if any of you, I've been going hardcore watching a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons shit lately. A whole bunch of the audience just came in their fucking pants when I said that sentence.
Or could immediately turned off.
Yeah, or completely turned off. If you're not familiar with what Dungeons and Dragons is, basically it's role-playing. It's fantasy role-playing. That's probably the best way of explaining it. There's more to it than that, but it's that. And some people just get into it and kind of just play around a little bit and put on a silly voice while they're role-playing. But then there are the other extreme of people who literally dress up in a full-on costume and go deep into a character, almost like they're method acting, and they've rehearsed at home 10,000 times, and they're no, today you will address me as this, I am this character, and if you use, their normal name, you're hey, Tom, they're who is Tom? I am Balthazar, they're fully into that shit. Role play in the bedroom can be the same thing. And if you're someone that isn't fully comfortable with going all in with a character, so many times when we've I've said this stuff to people, or when we've been seeing a girl and we go, oh, do you want to try like this? They what do they say half the time? They're like, I'm worried I might look a little bit silly.
And I think for me personally, as someone who has a massive aversion to feeling silly.
You don't like to feel silly, yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like I
don't either. I'm a very serious person.
a little story about me in high school they made, which is a bit cruel, in year 7, so like the first year in high school, in compulsory drama class, they made everyone do like a 5-minute like soliloquy.
What a beautiful word.
Basically, you just had to make up and then act in a solo performance in front of everybody on the stage as an awkward high schooler. And I sat on stage and had a breakdown because I can't do, like, I can't be silly. It's not a thing that I can do, but I can still have a lot of fun role playing. And
if you don't go fully into a character, yeah.
Correct. Because for context, we don't necessarily do the full in-character thing. A lot of the time it is very casual. And it's something we've explored a few times, and I think I would be more open to it. But I think if this is something that's new to you or you're a little bit inexperienced with, or it's something that you're nervous to try, just starting very, very casual and maybe using a few names or just changing your behavior slightly, not having to feel like you have to put on this big show is an easy way to start. I think maybe even sometimes, like, I'm dressed up today. Sometimes literally just having normal sex, but dressed up.
Yeah.
Can be a start to playing around with the role play.
Yeah, and I think, okay, our audience is about, at this point, like 60-40 men versus women, which might surprise a lot of you because this channel started 99.999% men. But any women listening, let's do them first. In terms of costumes, you can put your hair in pigtails. You can wear different outfits. You can go to a sex toy or an adult store and there's like 10 billion costumes. Like, I think most of the audience will understand, like, yeah, women can like dress up into a character. That's easy. What about for men though? For men, it's not like you go to we've been to 1 million adult stores at this point. There's like nothing that men can wear. It's not like, hey, yeah. And so, you might go, well, fuck, what can I do? So you got to like be a character a little more, but even just doing something like wear a freaking suit. The number of people that I've said to do, the number of guys I've said this to, where they're like, all right, I want to try some, maybe some dominance. Like I want to be a little more dominant. I want to take the lead a little more. Women get to wear all of this sexy lingerie and all of these costumes and all of this, and they get to feel pretty. And essentially, I don't get to feel pretty. What should I do? And I say, just wear a suit. Like you're going to be massively overdressed for the occasion. And that's the point. There is such a beautiful power dynamic when you walk into the bedroom or, wherever you are, and you're dressed in a suit and she's either naked. Oh my God, that's like my favorite power dynamic is I'm just in full suit or even just like what I'm wearing now, like a nice fitted, button. It's got buttons and stuff. A nice button shirt.
Explaining.
Yeah, people might not know what a fitted shirt is. If you're someone that's just worn a t-shirt and jeans your entire life, you're like, what's a fitted shirt? You mean that thing that I wore to that funeral one time? Yeah, that. With the buttons, you have to like you have to put the little plastic bit through the hole. And you have to do that a lot until this shirt stays on you and doesn't fall off.
Nice. Thank you.
You have to do the little buttons on your arms too. Yep. And so you can just wear a suit and you have this incredible power dynamic where you're like the man in control. You're like the CEO and she's just like your sexy little like secretary or something. You don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to be in character. Just that alone. So dressing up is definitely one way of entering into or like trying some role play stuff. Mm-hmm. And like we said, you don't have to be deeply into character with this. You don't have to roll up and come up. I said at the start of this podcast, I was obviously joking. Like role play can be a way to cheat. Like I was kind of joking, but I was like, I'm obviously joking about the cheating thing, but you can literally pretend that you're both different people. You can go that deep into it if you want to. You can like make up a little character and you only have to make it up in your head, but you can kind of just think, what would I do if I was this different person? And that's another way to role play. Like without costumes or toys or anything, you can literally just say, what if I was a slightly different person? You can be a completely different person or a slightly different. So you could say, what would someone who was 10% more dominant than me do? Well, they probably wouldn't like stammer or they probably wouldn't question themselves before they do something. They'd probably just do it quite confidently. Okay, could I try that? Almost like I'm acting. And it is acting. A role play can be a little bit of acting. It's like a fun little game and, take the pressure off yourself to do a good job with that. But you can just kind of mess around a little bit and try some stuff.
Yeah. Would we like to discuss things that we've tried?
Fuck no. No. I have a lot of like shyness on camera. I'm very shy on camera, and so I'm not talking about what I'm comfortable with. Fun one that we've done many times is, or not a lot of times actually, probably like 10 times, is like you dressing up as a nurse. We have a fun little nurse costume. Mm-hmm. That's really fun. And then, you know, she has to give you relief. Like, oh no, you need some help. Like, looks like your penis is, oh my God, you've got some issues with your penis. Oh my goodness. Like nurse fucking Betty or whatever fucking name you come up with. Nurse Emmy will.
I don't have a name.
What's the nurse that everyone wants to smash in Pokemon? Nurse Joy?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to smash Nurse Joy in Pokemon.
She's not a dominant. She's like
she wants but she wants to get smashed. So I cut you off there, but there's Nurse Joy. Like we would all smash Nurse Joy.
To go find
Nurse Joy. We just spent the last 45 minutes looking at Nurse Joy. Mm-hmm. That's not true, but yeah. So Nurse Joy, sexy little bitch there. So you can dress up as Nurse Joy. You can pretend to be Nurse Joy. Oh, I need to give you a hand job relief. Like your penis is all burnt up. And it's okay if you feel a little silly when you try some of these roleplay ideas. Like that can be kind of the fun of it. I think a lot of people, when it comes to sex in general, but especially kink, and then especially if you get into any BDSM or roleplay, people put a lot of pressure on themselves that like, I have to be good at the character. I can never break character. That's sort of like an unwritten rule that people put in their head. How often do you and I break character?
Constantly. And often, like, even when we're having sex, we will pause in the middle of, like, just normal sex to, like, do something that's non-sex related or have, like, a weird, silly mini conversation.
Yeah, we'll just talk. Well, I stop all the time during sex. And I'm obviously leading that because I'm usually the one that's taking the lead. But yeah, I will stop all the time during sex and we'll cuddle or we'll talk. And that's when we're together. That's when we're with another girl. Even if it's a girl that we've only just, like, this is the first time that we're sleeping together, I don't put any pressure on myself and you don't either. And we don't put pressure on her that it has to be this like smooth, perfect, beautiful experience. I mean, obviously we want it to be beautiful, but like it doesn't have to be this smooth experience where we never break character and we're always perfect and we're hyper just sexual the entire time. No, we'll stop after like half an hour or 10 minutes or something and just have a cuddle and be like, hey, are you having fun? Like, you know, tell us more about you. Like, what are you doing on the weekend? Like, I'll have normal conversation and then we'll just start making out again. We'll get back into sex. I like to slip in and out. I call it roller coaster sex, or it's one of the parts of what I call roller coaster sex. If you think about a roller coaster, you're going like up and down, and it's exciting because there's the high moments, you know, which in sex is like the really hard, passionate, amazing experiences. And then you have the little slow moment where you're building up momentum and anticipation, which is, you know, we'll stop and have a conversation. I kind of like doing that. I've done it for so many years that we do that most of the time. And so you can dip in and out of role play as well. You can be in a character and then you can just be looking at your partner or your partners and you're looking at them and you just like giggle and you crack up and you're like, oh my God, I feel so silly. Like, I can't believe we're doing this. And they can be like, oh my God, I feel silly too. Like, or you can be like, this is so fun. Like, you can break it for that. I think a lot of people think that whatever's in their head during sex, they're not allowed to say. And I've made a habit, and so have you, of just saying whatever is in our head. So if we're saying, oh my God, this is so hot, you're so good at role play, like, say that. You're allowed to break character.
And I think sometimes the biggest thing that makes this easier is just trusting the other person. Like, trusting that even if you do something that's a bit silly, like, that's totally fine. Like, there's not going to be anything lost there with your connection with the other person.
Yeah, they're not going to be like, oh my God, you broke character, you're a fucking loser and I'm never going to...
Well, they're not going to judge you or laugh at you. They're just going to be fully accepting. And a lot of the time, like, even when we've engaged in anything sexual that's new or one of us might be a bit nervous to try, a lot of the time you're going to do, like, your partner is going to do as much as they can to encourage and be enthusiastic in that. Even if you're a bit clumsy, like, they're going to encourage you, and like having that unwavering support in a way is just going to help the confidence in the moment. Because as long as you're with someone that's like a relatively supportive human being, they're going to be supporting you. They're going to be encouraging you. They're going to do their best to be into it so that you can both have a nice time. They're not trying to call you out or catch you on not doing a good job. Yeah.
And if you don't feel like you do trust your partner yet, that's okay. You'll build that up. But it's really a trust in yourself. It's a trust in the universe. It's a full embracing of a lot of the concepts that I talk about. Like, give yourself permission to suck. That one more than anything. It's like, if you can just be okay with the fact that, yeah, sometimes you might be a bit clumsy. Sometimes someone might laugh at you. Like, sometimes you might feel a bit awkward. That's okay. Like, nothing bad happens. So fully embracing that. You want to talk about some of the other types of roleplay that we like? I think probably the biggest one that we haven't talked about. Well, we haven't talked about that one.
Is like daddy, dom, little girl roleplay, DDLG.
Yep. So basically she calls you daddy, and there's different variations of that. She can call you sir or, Mr. or master, whatever names you want. You can call her pet, baby, honey, sweetheart, little one, whatever you want to come up with, slave, whatever works well for you, slut, if you guys are into that. We've talked about names and name calling and stuff like that. If you're going to use names like, slut, whore, stuff like that, generally speaking, we recommend that it comes from a good place and that the person feels good about it. Sometimes we can use names like slut or whore and, she's not in a good state of mind or something, or maybe she doesn't have the healthiest, maybe that's not the right word, but she doesn't have an understanding that this is like a fun little game, and so she might take it personally. So talk to your partner about that stuff, but there's all different words that you can use there. And you can do the flip of that as well. So that's having like a man in the dominant position. You can do the exact opposite of that, which is a woman is in the dominant or taking the lead position. So femdom. We've got a video on our channel about femdom. So that's her basically playing mistress or dominatrix or
taking the lead.
Dom, yeah.
And that's a huge sliding scale. Like that can just be like
100%.
A female taking the lead. Maybe that's being on top and riding a guy and being a bit more passionate. And sometimes that can be a full-on like dominatrix type mode where it's like you're giving commands and having rules, and sometimes it's like verbal humiliation, or you're being more stern, that's name calling. Like there's so many different levels to it. And we've definitely started like slow over the years, and and it's ramped up, and we've gotten more comfortable with exploring more and going a little bit deeper on all of these things. But start small. If it's something that you want to try but you haven't tried before and you're a bit nervous to, you really don't have to do very much to introduce these sort of role plays. Yeah, and to really underline it again, you don't have to like completely break character with this stuff. In fact, you can stay as both of you. Like I can be normal Andy and you can be normal Imogen, but you're like it's like you've added one adjective to that. So what I mean by that is you're like Mistress Imogen, or slightly more dominant Imogen, or me, I'm still Andy, but maybe I'm, slightly rougher today, Andy, or I'm the Andy who's just going to be a little bit more assertive, and I'm already pretty assertive, but like, the Andy who's going to be slightly more gentle today. Like, and so it's almost like you're stepping into a character that's 5% different from who you are. So again, roleplay doesn't have to be, I become a completely different character and I have to put on this mask and like, I have to get into character. That can feel a little intimidating for a lot of people. Like, and again, that isn't necessarily something you and I do a lot. But what if you just step into, I'm the person who's 5% more confident today. Or I'm going to roleplay as and you can literally tell yourself that you're roleplaying as it if that helps you do it. It's kind of like fake it till you make it. You can say, I'm going to be the person who's going to be 5% more kinky today. I'm going to be the version of myself that is 5% more into going down on you. I'll just be, it's almost like you're giving yourself like a fantasy or a fetish and you explore that. And you just role play as the person who's a little more confident with that thing or a little more into it. Because role play can feel like it requires confidence. And a big trick here is obviously, first of all, you can just like kind of fake it a little bit. But then second of all, just do a tiny little bit of that thing. So again, if you don't feel confident to become a full-on dominant or something, or you're like, there's no way I could dress up as a nurse and role play as that. I'd feel too silly. I'd feel too stupid. Okay, what if you just try a tiny little bit of that? Yeah, where it's only a slight deviation from who you usually are day to day. Yeah, and we've done this with so many women. One of my favorite things that I really like to do with women, we tend to screen for very submissive women. We tend to date women that are about 18 to, 23, roughly in that age range. And they tend to be not very experienced. They might be experienced sexually, but like not with threesomes and not with women usually and not with BDSM. We kind of like that dynamic of us like mentoring them and teaching them. It's why I have a coaching business. I like to mentor people. And one thing that I really like to sort of role play with them is we'll often say like, have you ever tried being like a little more dominant? And basically all of them are like, no, I'm a submissive. Like, and they say it nicer than that, but they're like, no, I'm a submissive. Hell no. Like, I've never tried that. There's no way I could do that. And I'll ask the question of like, do you think, like, is it something that would be fun to you? Like, would it turn you on? And basically all of them are like, actually, now that I think about it, it would be fun, but there's no way in hell I could ever do that. Like, I am literally the polar opposite of that. Yeah, we get lots of like maybes. I'm open to giving it a go if you help me. Yep. And so that's kind of the point here. So we can say to them, and we do this with quite a few of them, okay, what if we just try you role playing
as 1% more taking the lead. Like you just play as that, and we'll guide you, we'll teach you, and it's usually easiest if I teach them to be more dominant with you. They usually find that less intimidating, especially when we're talking about submissive women and a more dominant man. A lot of the submissive women do not feel comfortable starting to dominate a man. They'll be able to get there eventually, and that's kind of, what we help them with, because we like that dynamic. That's fun. I really like all the different dynamics of like who's in control and who's not. But we'll get them to start with you, and we'll just say like, hey, try role playing as like 1% more dominant, and I'll show you what to do, and we'll teach them, and like we literally do walk them through. It's like, no, take your hand and like gently like squeeze her a little bit, squeeze Imogen a little bit harder. No, just a little bit harder than that.
Yeah, it's essentially you instructing a girl on how to be more dominant. And
me dominating a girl on how to dominate you. It's like I'm delegating. She's the middle manager, and you're the lower. You're the staff member. You're the floor staff, the frontline staff, and I'm the CEO, and I delegate to her to delegate to you.
And I think even if you're just like in a like heterosexual dynamic where the guy is usually more dominant than the woman, when you're practicing or exploring being more submissive, you can still, if you're usually more dominant, give not command or instructions or guidance.
Yep.
Even though you're the one that's being submissive, you can say like, what if you put your hand around my throat? Or what if you spank me a bit? Or what if you tease me a bit more? Like you can make those suggestions as the one that usually takes the lead, but do so from a more submissive position to help the person that's taking the lead do so.
Yeah, so again, to really underline with all of these kind of role play ideas, you can kind of like walk each other through them. Like you can literally say to each other like, hey, do you want to try like I'm the professor and you're my, student, and you got bad grades and you have to come to me and, oh my God, professor, is there anything I could do to make up my grades? Let me think, young lady. Well, I do have a big fucking dick that needs sucking. Like, it's going to be more subtle than that. Be that clumsy with your role play if you want to. You probably both laugh and then have some fun with it. And that's the thing, like laughter can be fun. Like it doesn't have to be, oh my God, I laughed, it's all over, I fucked up, I broke character. But you can kind of walk each other through that process. You can go, okay, I'd love to try that role play with you. God, like how do we get started? Oh my God, I don't know. Fuck. Should we go to an adult toy shop? And that's why I keep bringing that up, because that's probably the easiest way. What if we just go to a sex toy shop or an adult shop? What if we just buy like a naughty schoolgirl uniform, and then, I'll just put on a suit and tie. And then what if we just try that? And you can call me professor, but if you feel silly calling me that, we just won't use any names because we feel goofy saying names, but we'll just wear the outfit and see how that feels. And remember that with this role play thing, again, people put a lot of pressure on themselves that I have to jump straight into character. You have to call me sir. I mean, how many people who are getting into BDSM or just any kind of like dominant, submissive role dynamic will go, so I have to be just like a perfect sir or a perfect master, perfect dom, and I'm never allowed to break character, and I'm definitely never allowed to ask her any questions or say, what were you like, or what do you think I should do next, or like, what would be fun to try? I can't do any of that because then she'll know I'm not a real fucking dom. And it's like, first of all, there is no real fucking dom. This is all a sliding scale. But second of all, how are you going to be good at something you've never done?
Yeah, and there's no like special innate knowledge that you're just meant to have if you're dominant.
How could you just have that knowledge? You've never practiced.
It really is just a skill to practice.
Yeah.
Something to continue to get better at. And with each new partner that you have, that changes again. Like there's no one size fits all for every partner that you have. People will be into different things and like different things. And some things that will drive one person wild won't really do it for another.
Yeah. And with all of these, things we keep bringing up of like, it's okay, you can just like practice, you can improve a little bit. Remember that it's not like you have to get good at this in one session. Like this isn't the only time, especially if it's with a partner that you have, but even if it's just a casual hookup or something, you're going to have more opportunities to practice it in future, usually with the same person. And so don't think like, oh, the first time we try role play, we have to get it right. Like, no, we can just be really clumsy the first time and do a crappy job. And then the second time, we can just try again and be a little better. And then the third time, maybe we'll be a little bit better. And then the fourth time, a little bit smoother. And after we've done this like 10 or 20 times, we'll be relatively good at this. We'll be able to say, call me sir without giggling. Like the first time I did any of this stuff, I giggled. I felt like a goofball. Like the first time I said to a woman, I want you to call me daddy, I was like, I felt like a fucking idiot. Actually, no, that's not true. The first time anyone ever called me that was a woman said that to me, and I was like, oh, I like that. But when I started saying, call me daddy, I felt like an idiot. When I started saying, call me sir, I was like, sir, what the hell? Like, this is stupid. This is so dumb. Like, I literally had those thoughts, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't put too much pressure on myself to be good at it. I think one of the things that I was very fortunate with, and I didn't choose to do this, it just was in my head, and I'm so grateful. I just somehow knew that I wasn't going to be good at BDSM or kink or sex in general. I just, I talk about humility on this channel all the time. And humility is a cheat code. If you can just give yourself permission to suck and be okay with sucking and be humble enough to say, like, look, I'm not going to be good at this thing. Like, I talk about that all the time. I didn't earn my humility. I just had incredibly low fucking self-esteem, like to the point where it was so low that I was like, well, I like literally know that I'm like at the bottom. And like, that's why my website is called what it's called. And I was like, well, I'm at the bottom. Like, yeah, of course, I don't know what BDSM is. I don't know any of this shit. Okay. Like, I guess I will slightly get better. I didn't have any like ideas that I'm going to be good at this thing. And so you can kind of give yourself that same permission to just, okay, I'm at the bottom. It's fine. I'll just like slowly increase and I'll get a little better. It's like a skill that I will practice. Any of you that play video games, it's like you're starting out as a level 1 character. And okay, I'm just going to slowly level up over time. I'm going to get better with practice. So you can do it multiple times with the same partner. You don't have to be good at this stuff. And you won't be anyway. I don't know any of the girls that we do roleplay with who aren't super experienced, who are just good at it at the start. They're almost all clumsy and shy, and they like, you say to them like, I want you to call me sir, and they're like, okay, sir. And like, no, more confidently, louder, and they're like, okay, sir. Like it's like that so often. We don't think less of them.
No, of course not. That's part of the fun. It's like learning to bring out that sexual energy with the partners that you're with.
Yeah, because most of us, you go.
It's your big philosophy. It's like you're a huge proponent of giving yourself permission to suck. And we've definitely done that with sex and exploring all of this stuff. And sometimes the fantasy doesn't play out as you think it will, but that's fine. It's part of the learning process.
Yeah, and it's about the story that you tell when that happens. So if you put all this pressure on yourself and then the fantasy doesn't work out, and then you tell the story of, oh man, that sucked, that was awful, I should have done a better job, it's like, yeah, that will feel bad. But if you go, well, how the hell was I going to be good at that? And of course, some of these fantasies won't be as good when we actually do them compared to what was in my head. Because in my head, I had no idea what it would actually be. Like, I haven't done it. Like, literally, I haven't done it. There are a couple more points that I want to make. And this was my very bad segue to them. Roleplay is fun because it lets you become a character. Like, it's almost like you get to let go and not be, especially if you're someone that's uptight or that you've got a lot of stress or whatever, it's almost like a pressure release. You get to just, for a little bit, pretend to be either a slightly different version of yourself or a slightly more confident version of yourself. Or if you fully go into a role play, it's like I get to be someone who's almost not me, or like a really different version of myself. And there can be like quite a relaxing into that. Like I imagine, and I haven't done a whole lot of it myself, but I imagine something like acting or theater or improv or even stand-up comedy can be this nice, relaxing, freeing thing, because it's like, well, normal me has all of these day-to-day stresses and I got to pay the bills and all of this, or, all the stuff that we stress ourselves out with. But this character doesn't have any of that shit. The naughty nurse who just needs that fucking semen sample right now in her mouth, because that's definitely the most like sanitary way to collect a semen sample. All these slutty nurses going around like not thinking of hygiene. But that nurse isn't sitting there going, how do I pay my bill? She's just thinking, me need to sucky, 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 fucky, fucky.
Yeah.
That was slightly racist, wasn't it, against Asians? Whatever, you're half Asian, so I can be racist. It's not racist unless I say I hate all Asians. That's racist. Okay. I like all Asians.
But yes, the point being, and I think we mentioned this at the very, very start, but it is a form of escapism.
Yep.
And you can that's kind of what good sex can be in a way. It's like you're letting go of everything else.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about that for that moment in time.
You're being present.
And you just get to enjoy what's in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, like often a lot of us have a lot of hang-ups around sex. I think that's really common I'm trying to think of a country where it's not common. There will be lots of countries that are sexually open. I just can't think of any. But you know, we're relatively open in the West, particularly if you compare us to like Asian countries or Eastern Europe and places like that. We're pretty open, but we do also have a lot of shame and guilt around sex and sexuality and being sexual. You know, words like slut or like she's a whore or like, oh, wow, you've had 10 sexual partners. Well, if you'd had 9, I would have been okay with that. But 10 means that you're a bad person. Like there's a lot of feeling of that. You know, a guy says, I want to get laid and uses those two words together, get and laid. And people are like, well, that's fucked. Like you're a bad person because you're trying to get laid, or casual sex. There are a lot of like hang-ups around a lot of these concepts. And so stepping into a roleplay character can be freeing from that, because now I get to just be a complete uninhibited fucking whore. And I mean that, I love the idea of that. I mean that in a good way. It's like I get to just be unhinged. I get to be a little nasty slut. Or if you're a man, I get to just have these sexual urges and not feel fucking guilty or like I'm a toxic man if I have these kind of urges for once. You get to just step into that and fully embrace your animalistic nature.
Yeah, you encourage that a hell of a lot during sex. That's maybe one of your go-tos. Is just encouraging being like we often say like depraved in a way during sex.
Just letting it all out. That beautiful animalistic sexual impulse, just like let it out. That beautiful like animal part of you that just wants to break free of all of society's rules, and well, that wouldn't be proper for me to have a sex drive, that would be awful, and gosh darn it, I'm not allowed to have that. It's like, no, you are, and like I want you to. That is literally what we say to people a lot. We're like in the bedroom, I want you to be horny, I want you to be nasty, I want you to be, like you said, depraved. Sometimes I'll even say phrases like, to really get it out of them, if they're struggling, I'll say, I want you to be a little fucked up for me. And they're like, oh, okay. And the reason that I use the word fucked up is because people often think of their normal sexual urges as like fucked up. You know, it's fucked up for me if I want to call someone sir or daddy. That means I'm fucked up. And it's like, why? If you're two consensual adults and you're both having fun, and after the experience you feel better off for having had it, why would that be fucked up? That sounds okay. That sounds nice. So it's ways of prompting us to get these sexual urges out. And I think roleplay is a nice way to step into that energy and because that energy is inside you. It's not inside everyone, by the way. But I don't know why you'd be watching this video. If you had no interest in sex or roleplay, why would you be watching?
Staring into the void.
Yeah.
Like into the...
No, there are some, we do get those kind of comments sometimes on our sex related videos where it's really rare. To be fair, it's really rare. It's like once every 3 months where someone will be like, well, actually, if you turn to page 423 of the Bible, the King James, the fucking 7th version of the Bible, on page 223, it says, let he who is fucking wed to his wife lay down together, otherwise it is a sin and God hates you. And like they'll just write like a 10-paragraph essay, and I'm like, every single time I hit them with I don't hit them with this. I actually do feel this, but I'm like, hey, I love that you know what you want. That's beautiful. And then we keep having sex. But yeah, there are lots of, we do get comments every now and then from someone just going, sex is a sin, it's bad. Why is it bad? Because it's what? What do you mean, why? It's bad. How do you not know that? So you wouldn't be watching this channel anyway, but yeah, we also like to play out some of the fantasies that we might have. You know, like stepping into a role play means that you can do some of the things that maybe you wouldn't do before, because each role play might have a dynamic that you didn't have before. So for instance, if you're someone that has a latex fetish, which a lot of guys do, I didn't know I had a fetish of that until you started trying it, and I was like, why is this hot?
It's not actually latex though, and we had someone correct us on the fact
Oh
that
yeah, I remember that.
Latex, we used like a
I remember that.
pea leather type stuff rather than latex, because latex is different. And
the vast majority of humans would call it latex gloves. I know, I agree with you. We did have some hyper nerd who was like, yeah.
Anyway, beside the point.
Latex gloves. Or maybe you have a fetish for, okay, you might have a fetish for a woman wearing stockings. And unless you work in a corporate environment or walk around, you know, a city center at 8 a.m. in the morning, like jerking your dick off, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of stockings in your life. Depends on the country you live. If you live in a cold place, you'll see stockings all the time. But if you live like where we do, where it's hot, no one's wearing stockings here. Yeah, no one's fucking wearing stockings here, ever. I don't think I've ever seen them.
Strippers wear stockings. That's like a thing, like the thigh high.
Yeah, so good example. So you could role play as a stripper. Now I get to wear stockings, and holy shit, yeah, I have a stocking fetish. This is a really nice way of exploring that. And so role play can be a nice little, like what I'm saying is a lot of the costumes or a lot of the kinks or the toys that you might use or the dynamics that you might act out come with or come nicely bundled up with like a role play fantasy, or you might, okay, how many guys have a fetish for like a girl with her hair in like pigtails like this? Like I like that. I really like that. I don't know why I like that, but I fucking like that.
Because you like the little girl.
Yeah, it's like adorable.
Dynamic.
It's like adorable.
Kind of gives me a headache though, so we don't get
tying your hair up like this. Yeah, because this is stuff that you don't know unless you have a girlfriend or you ask. Yeah, putting your hair, tying it up like pulls on your head. I never would have considered that. You probably haven't considered that every time I wear a beanie and I have my earphones on, it hurts my head because it squashes. Anyway, no one gives a shit, son. I give a shit, son. But yes, a lot of these fantasies come bundled up with different things that you do. So if you like pigtails, it's like, okay, what if you dress up as a naughty schoolgirl and I'm your professor? Now we get to explore pigtails and other stuff with it. Or if you like, I don't know, skirt, no one's going to be able to see, but you're wearing like a little cute little schoolgirl skirt. Yeah, with like that material. Don't hit the microphone. Okay, you get to do that in like a schoolgirl professor roleplay, yeah. And so there's all different ones. If you're a woman that really finds it attractive or hot when a guy wears a suit, which guys, any guys listening, I'm telling you, just put on a fucking suit. The next time you have sex, you don't even have to tell her. I would tell her because I think that's fun, but like just do it without even telling her. Just put on a fucking suit and wear that suit the entire time. I promise you, afterwards, she would be like, that was so fucking hot. You didn't even have to do anything. Just like leave the suit on. And when you go to have sex, just like unbutton your pants and then have sex. I promise you, afterwards, she'll be like, that was so hot. Like, that was so much fun. Holy shit, why'd you do that? That was hot. So, you can kind of just wear a suit and then, you can like role play as a professor who's wearing a suit or role play as like the businessman. And then she gets to play out her fantasy of like, damn, I just love guys in suits. They're fucking hot. So whatever it might be, role play are a really nice way to do that. To get started with this stuff, if you're comfortable with your partner or partners, you just talk about it. We talk a lot about honesty on this channel, so that's what we would encourage. But if you're a little nervous to bring this stuff up, you can just kind of write a bucket list of all the sexual things that you want to try, and then you encourage your partner or partners to do the same, and then you can kind of share lists with each other. And you might find that some of the things you have are on their list, and if not, you show what's on your list and you say, hey, do you want to try this role play idea with me? And it's okay if you feel silly. It's okay if you feel a little goofy. Should we try this stuff together? Anything else you want to add? Anything we didn't cover?
I don't think so. Like, obviously, we more gave ideas around the philosophies of all of this, opposed to like, try this, and this.
I think we listed enough things.
Yeah. I mean, I could say like a big, maybe it's ideal in like a written form, like a big list of like, if you want to try this roleplay, you can try with these props or these words or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, roleplay can very much cater to what you're into. Yeah.
I think, and so this is what I'd say. I think people know what they're going to be into. Like, just think what things turn you on. Maybe it's a schoolgirl, like professor, maybe nurse, whatever. I think people know. I think people sit there and have fantasies.
And when you start brainstorming, you can come up with a hell of a lot of ways to play out said fantasies.
Yeah. And if you aren't sure what you're into, go to an adult store, honestly. Just look at all the costumes. There's like a massive costume section in basically all of these stores. And you'll see things you hadn't maybe thought of. Or you can Google it, or you can go onto my website and search for sexual bucket list. And there's a whole list of like different role play ideas you can do. And I listed a whole bunch. So nothing else to add. Thank you so much for joining me, my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about the coaching. So 2 days left. I forgot to mention this at the start, but 2 days left in my coaching deal. So if you sign up and you pay in full, you will get 18 weeks of coaching instead of 12. Let's read out a cool little testimonial. So a guy, and I said to you before this, I couldn't remember who wrote this because I grabbed all the...
to say that in the recording.
No, because lots of people like give these testimonials. They'll just email it to me, or they'll just post it in the coaching group. They'll be like, dude, guys, like, holy shit, joining this changed my life. And then I'll just like copy them and I save them somewhere. And then I'll come back to them randomly when I remember. And some of them are from like a year or two ago, or like I don't remember when. And so I try and go like, who was this guy? And so I don't remember. But this, hey, whoa, that's an amazing coaching pitch. I changed so many lives. I don't do it, they do it. I help so many people change their lives. We help so many people change their lives that I forget about, there's just so many. Humble brag. So, a guy says, I think it was a guy. I joined the group as a 26-year-old virgin with tons of fears. Used 1.5 months of achieving what I have used 26 years to do. Being in Andy's group has pushed me to get shit done, while it has also been a great place for judgment-free help and feedback and insight on my specific issues. I can confidently say that there was no better way to spend my money. That's nice. People are nice. And that wasn't even a testimonial. Like, people just write that kind of stuff. And by the way, I always ask them for permission before I read it out. But yeah, I think that's probably a good underlining of what the group is. It's very non-judgmental, like extremely non-judgmental, even more so recently, because we had a woman join the coaching group, and she's an older woman too, and she's got kids and marriage, and she was married, and yeah, she's got this beautiful journey that she's on right now. She wants to explore some BDSM, lose some weight, work on some other goals. That's been really cool. That's opened up the group even more. And I had a big discussion with the group beforehand. And I said, hey, basically, I'm going to be letting more women into the group. And I was always happy to let women in. It's just that my audience was particularly male at the start. But yeah, it feels like the group and the coaching and everything else, this audience has really, really, really expanded. Like I said, remember the days when there was 99% men? And how many conversations did I have with you?
Yeah, one day maybe we'll be more accessible and can be like Mark Manson or your other bigger self-improvement type people, can reach more people, not be so closed off.
Yeah, and obviously there's nothing wrong with reaching only men. I'm certainly not saying that that's bad. I just knew from the very beginning that I wanted to coach people more than men, but I had found my niche of talking only about sex and only about getting laid and only to men. And that worked really, really well. And the reason that I had that niche was because that's just what I was pretty decent at. That's what I felt comfortable talking about. And it's been this beautiful process over the last 4 years or so at this point of slowly giving myself permission to talk about other things. Because I've been very nervous to open up about different concepts and different topics. Remember the conversations, it took 6 months of talking about it before I finally did a single relationship video talking about relationships. I felt so scared to talk about that topic because I was but I don't know what I'm doing in relationships. Imogen and I have only been together for 4 years, and my first 2 relationships were, not super happy and blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel confident talking about it. Did not feel comfortable talking about money, how to earn money. Did not feel comfortable talking about happiness or love. Really didn't feel comfortable using the word love the first few times I did on camera. When I talked about loving yourself, I had so many hang-ups around that phrase, so many fears of but what if guys say that's gay, bro? Loving yourself means that you like dick. Do you like dick, boy? Do you like to lick your own dick? I had all these goofy notions of what people might say or how it might go wrong, or but what if people hate that you're talking about this and they don't want you to talk about anything but sex and getting laid for men? And so it's been really nice it feels like it's been years in the making, because I have wanted this for a long time. I've wanted to, and at this point we've coached 5 women, I think, but this is the first woman who's joined the actual hardcore coaching program amongst all of the other men. The others were just one-on-one coaching calls that I did. And so it feels nice to have a wider audience now. And half the people that come aren't just there for sex. I know this is a sex video, but I would say at this point, probably 50% of the people there are there for things other than sex, where it's business. Business is a big one now. I think we've worked with 15 people who just want to start a business. We had a guy in the coaching group, I'm going to do a testimonial with him soon, who earned his first $500 in within 30 days of trying. And he was this is going to take me a year to earn $500. And I was dude, you could do it this week if you want to. Just do these steps, this, and this. And he went out and did it. And he ended up he actually earned the $500 in about a 2-week period. But he tried for 2 weeks before that to build the things up and that. So, yeah, it's been good. And I appreciate you being here with this journey.
You're welcome.
Because the people don't know. I say it all the time, but you and I have had 10 billion conversations where you've talked to me and listened to me. How many times have we walked around and I've gone I'm so scared, honey. And you're all right, we'll talk about it. And we talk about it for hours, hundreds or thousands of times. I appreciate you a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, go fucking do whatever the hell you want to do. And coaching, link in the description below. Like I said, 2 days left. 2 days left. 2 days left. Sign up. We would love to have you. Do whatever you want. I love you all. Goodbye.